options which enable us to focus on excellence and merit. Actually, there would be a body called board of governors would be established in all higher education institutions, and that would be established only after the institution gets the required accreditation. So that's a precondition for the establishment of board of governors, and it is only upon receiving the, as I said, required accreditation, board of governors will be established, and it will consist of highly qualified, competent and dedicated individuals having proven capabilities. So all these days we did not have any board of governors, but the higher education institutions were coming under the jurisdiction of the universities, and universities were controlling. But according to NEP 2020, if it is going to be adopted, then the higher education institutions will not come under university, but they will have their own board of governors. Then the selection process for this would be through rigorous, impartial, merit-based and competency-based process led by an eminent expert committee, which would be constituted by BOG, that is Board of Governors. So all these days, the universities were appointed. One of the representatives of the university used to be there in the selection board, and the JD office person used to be there. But now it would be done by a committee called Eminent Expert Committee, again, which would be constituted by Board of Governors. So there will not be involvement of the university. So while stability or tenure is important to ensure the development of a suitable culture, of course, same time, leadership succession will also be planned. So here afterwards, it will be tenure-based appointment for any position, that is including the head of the institution, that is leadership. So leadership changes will come with sufficient overlaps, and it will not remain vacant in order to ensure the smooth transitions, and outstanding leaders will be identified and developed early, working their way through a ladder of leadership positions. So the governance now will have the governing body, the administration, the faculty, and the students. I think, of course, the governance, here the governing body will be the BOG, that is Board of Governors, and here we will have Higher Education Council of India. So how will the architecture of the university governance would be? NEP 2020 calls for special consideration of university governance in two aspects. The first is issuing of autonomy, and secondly, the structuring of internal university governance. So hitherto there was not much autonomy given to the institution. So it was only the university which was autonomous, but the higher education institution by itself, like each college, was not autonomous. But now, according to NEP 2020, they want to give the autonomy to the higher education institution itself, and they will have the internal university governance. Now, each higher education institution will have or will act like a university by itself. So, of course, the issue of autonomy shall be desired, but again constrained and organized by state government. So now the power is shifting on to the state government from university. So the term faculty autonomy means providing independence in designing the curricula and the pedagogical methodologies, but which are needed to be in NEP 2020 framework. So autonomy is given, but it is restricted to the framework. So here autonomy is not with complete autonomy, but the autonomy is with respect to the academic matters. The institutional autonomy means primarily applied to affiliated colleges, which can be used in unspecified ways to slowly moving towards research intensive or teaching intensive universities. So we will have two categories. Some will be focused on research and some will be focused on teaching intensive universities. So if we try to recall, maybe some 5-6 years ago, the authorities wanted to make of my
ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಹಾಕಿದಾರೆ ಅದು ಮಾತ್ರ ಇದು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ MSc ಜರ್ನಲಿಸಮ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಇಲ್ಲ
I think when somewhere, I don't know where.
Ashok sir, mute mobile sensor, Ashok sir.
Okay, so we will have two categories of universities, and I would try to, I wish to recall that there was a talk going on that University of Mysore would be made research intensive university, but nothing happened later. So now again there is a move that there would be two categories of universities. The most disturbing change contemplated is to the institution of university governance. So now the new policy came up with an fundamental principles of self-governance, which is an integral part of university functioning. So now actually we have board of studies and academic councils in the universities for regulating the academic matters and maintaining the standards. But of course, the executive council or the syndicates will be there, but they will be taking the decisions only with respect to the academic matters. So the academic councils will be taking the decisions with respect to academic matters, but the executive councils and the syndicates will take decisions related to the general management and administration, revenue, properties, etc., like the today's scenario only. But of course, it will be for the university itself. The higher education institution related administrative matters may not come to the university in future. That is, if NEP 2020 is applied. Then university courts or senates will be the supreme authorities, like how it is now. Faculty members will conquer both ex officio, that is deans and chairs, as well as elected officers in the university statutory bodies. Hitherto, the representation was less, but maybe in future, if NEP 2020 is adopted, then there will be more opportunities for the faculty members to occupy these positions. So the faculty of the university can debate and disagree before the things are at a consensus. What's happening is, sorry to say, but in academic council, there are members who are appointed by the governor and also the state government. And actually, the members there are many a time not highly academic, not even academic. So their background will be different. They will be from the political background. So the members of academic council will not be able to speak on the academic matters like giving guideship or changes in the syllabus or changing the credit system. This I have experienced as being deemed twice. So I think that problem may not arise if NEP 2020 is comes into effect, because more faculty members will have the opportunities because they will be included in these ACs, that is academic council, which was not there at the moment. So I feel it's a welcome change. So let us see how NEP has planned for effective governance in higher education institutions. So already we have told, we have learned that after getting a graded accreditation, the Board of Governors, that is BOG, will be set up in all higher education institutions. It's a group of highly qualified, dedicated, competent individuals who have proven their, so that means only those who have proved their capabilities with a strong sense of commitment to the institution will only be appointed. So hope it will be in spirit also in future. The Board of Governors will be authorized to govern the institution free from all external interferences. Then appointments to all the posts, including institutional head, will be done by Board of Governors. Of course, with the expert committee appointed by the board shall identify the new members, and all selection of new members will be done only by BOG. So it is envisioned that all higher education institutions will be supported, incentivized, and mentored during this process, and the target is to become autonomous and have such an authorized BOG by 2035. And the BOG shall be answerable and liable to the stakeholders through transparent self-disclosures of all relevant records. So this is something like maybe some months ago we had the live sessions, that is live release of the syndicate. Of course, now again it is stopped because of some technical reasons, but that would not be there if NEP 2020 is adopted, because everything will be transparent, and Board of BOG shall be responsible for meeting all regulatory guidelines mandated by Higher Education Council of India through the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, which will be one of the verticals of Higher Education Council. So we will have the academic freedom, we will have the account, but again we will have to, we will be bound by the accountability, and equitable access will be there. So this is about the institution in future. So with the vision of NEP 2020, to make for the smooth transition according to NEP 2020, the higher education system has to be established in large scale across the country, and it will include multidisciplinary colleges and universities. So we are moving towards a more multidisciplinary undergraduate education. This can be seen in the curricular framework of NEP 2020. So already, I think 2 years, the student had NEP 2020 syllabus, in which we had major, minor, and we were asked to have multidisciplinary approach here. So we had major from one discipline, minors from other discipline. So we have already experimented, but I don't know at present in Karnataka, the authorities are saying that we will revert to the previous one, but according to NEP 2020, it is multidisciplinary. So this is how we are moving towards the faculty and the institutional autonomy. So pedagogy, curriculum revamping, valuation, and student support to boost their experiences, and recommending the integrity of the faculty and the institutional leadership position through merit-based appointment. So they are saying it is merit-based appointment. Even today, of course, the authorities are saying it's merit-based appointments. And the career progression will be based on teaching, research, and service. So even now, we have 3 main parameters for the promotion, that is teaching, research, and extension. Setting up of a national research foundation to aid outstanding peer-reviewed research works and to actively seed research activities. So maybe there will be a separate body to cater to the needs of the researchers. Governance of higher education institutions shall be done by highly qualified independent boards. Already we have learnt about it. So the slogan, light but right, means the regulation by a single regulator for higher education. So this is like not what we had, AICTE, UGC, NCTE, Bar Council, etc. So we will have a single regulator for higher education, the access, equity, and inclusion have to be increased through a range of measures, including countless opportunities to outstanding public education. So scholarship will be provided from private charity for disadvantaged and underprivileged colleges and university students. And the major one would be online education, that is open distance learning, accessible of learning materials and all infrastructure needed to the learners with disabilities also. Sorry, there's a mistake there, spelling mistake there, for the students with disabilities. Now, of course, the focus is more on online education because we can reach the masses. I mean, those whoever cannot access the offline education can opt for ODL. And of course, we do have many platforms like MOOC by which we can get education. And that is getting a booster in NEP 2020. So this is transforming higher education into regulatory system. So for that, I have already told you there would be a Higher Education Commission of India. That is, we will have one body at the center. Of course, till now we were talking about UGC as one body, but under UGC, there were, equivalent to UGC also, there are so many statutory bodies like NCTE, NAC, AICTE, Bar Council of India, etc. But now we will have first one body, that is Higher Education Commission of India. So all the higher education institutions will come under Higher Education Council of India. That is all the universities and also the private undergraduate colleges and also private postgraduate colleges will come under this Higher Education Commission of India. There will be 4 verticals, that is 4 main branches of this Higher Education Council. The first vertical will be National Higher Education Regulatory Council. I think, friends, you are able to get it. Actually, I wanted to draw the figure. I forgot. It's like the 4 branches. The first vertical is NHERC, that is National Higher Education Regulatory Council, and it will function as single controller for higher education sector, including teacher education, but only medical and legal educations are excluded. Sorry, that should be read as are excluded. It should have been excluded. So now, of course, for teacher education, now we have NCTE, National Council of Teacher Education. But according to NEP 2020, even teacher education will come along with other streams. Only medical and legal education will have separate bodies. The second vertical will be meta-accrediting body called NAC. So the NAC will continue. And the accreditation of the institutions will be founded on basic norms, self-disclosure of public good governance and its outcomes. It will be approved by an independent ecosystem of accrediting institutions supervised and overseen by NAC. The third vertical will be Higher Education Grants Council. It will function as funding agency to higher education institution based on transparent criteria. This is very, very important, friends. First, we will have, in the previous slide, we have read that we will have NHERC, that is National Higher Education Regulatory Council. The second vertical will be meta-accrediting body, that is NAC. The third will be HEGC, that is Higher Education Grants Council. And the last vertical will be GEC, that is General Education Council. So one for the regulation, another for professional standards, another for financing, and the last one is for setting up of predictable learning outcome from higher education programs. So and it is referred to as graduate attribute. It is something like, what are the attributes we expect from a student who has passed BCom? What are the attributes which have to be there in a BSc graduate, BCom graduate, BA graduate, BEd graduate, etc. So this General Education Council, that will fix the predictable learning outcomes, and those learning outcomes have to be there in the person who becomes the graduate in that stream, and they are called graduate attributes. So a national higher education qualification framework shall be formulated by General Education Council. But on the whole, General Education Council, which is abbreviated as GEC, will take care of the graduate attributes. So the functioning of all the independent verticals are NHERC, NAC, HEGC, GEC, and NHERC is for regulation. Please note the letter R, it stands for regulation. Then NAC, that double A stands for accreditation. And funding, that is grants, G. And for academic standard setting is GEC. And overarching the autonomous umbrella would be Higher Education Council of India. So I think now you got this. So we have main Higher Education of Council. Under that 4 verticals, NHERC, NAC, HEGC, and GEC. So the separation of functions means each vertical within Higher Education Council of India should take up roles which are relevant, meaningful, and important. Then how will the financing be done? Higher Education Grants Council, which is the 3rd vertical of HECI, will look into it. It will carry out the funding function to higher education based on transparent criteria, including the institutional development plan prepared by the institutions and its progress made on the implementation of IDP. Actually, maybe some 2 years ago, that is at the end of my deanship, the government had asked us to write the institutional development plan, and they said the grants would be given based on the kind of the institutional development plan the university is giving. Of course, the state government changed, so it might have got stopped. I do not know what has happened now, but this had already got started. So HEGC will be delivered with the distribution of scholarships and fund development to launch new focused areas and expanding programs of quality offered by the higher education institutions of India across the different disciplines. And the General Education Council, which is the 4th vertical of Higher Education Commission of India, will frame the expected learning outcomes from higher education programs. Already we have learned they are called graduate attributes. And I have already explained that students graduating from each stream will have to have these attributes. So overall GEC will take care of, but for each stream, this higher education qualification framework will be given by GEC. It will work besides the National Skill Qualification Framework, because in NEP 2020, even skills are focused more. So along with the graduate, some of the skills will also be included in graduate attributes. Something like a student who is coming out with a BCom will have, in addition to the general attributes, he will have the skill of computing fast, or he will have the skill of predicting or predictions based on the present market rate of different stocks, etc. So and those people, I mean, who have those skills can be appointed by the corporations and the vocational companies. So NHEQC describes the learning outcomes of a degree or a diploma and a certificate program offered in higher education. This is given so because in NEP, we have multiple entries and exits. So if a student drops out of first year of degree, we say that he will have a certificate. If the student has an exit at the end of second year, he will have a diploma. If he completes the third year, he will have a degree. So, and if he completes all the 4 years, then he will have another degree. He can go for research directly. So, this is the structure. The GEC will create the norms to issuing credit transfers equivalents through NHUQF. So students should acquire some important skill sets specified for each program. Then professional standard setting bodies would be established. The councils for different professional programs like Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Veterinary Council of India, National Council for Teacher Education, Council of Architecture, National Council for Vocational Education and Training, even Master of Business Management is also included, will act as professional standard setting bodies, that is PSSB. These play an important role in the higher education system, and it will be a member of GEC. Afterwards, PSSBs will continue to pull the criteria. That is, if the students have to have those graduate attributes, then the curriculum will also should be revised, and it should also have direct teaching, research and extension activities in that particular domain. Thus, the PSSBs would also set the standards or expectations in a particular field of learning and practice, though they don't have any regulatory role. Regulatory role is by GEC, but the professional standards will be set by PSSBs. So all the higher education institutions will decide how their educational programs reply to these standards by considering the other things which are required to reach out to the firm. So all the higher education institutions need to display their commitment for institutional excellence, arrangement with local communities, and maintain the peak standards. So institutions are required to make strategic institutional development plan, because we have to reach the goals based on which the institutions will develop initiatives, assess their progress, and set their goals to attain the excellence which can become the basis for public funding. Like, only if the higher education has demonstrated, have proven that they have achieved this much, further grants will be given. So the IDP is needed to prepare with the joint participation of board members, leaders of the institutions, faculty, staff, and students. So all the stakeholders are the part of this. So the aspects of academic freedom will be, that is, quality of education and control over academic decisions, online learning, intellectual property, job security. Then so all these, of course, everybody will have a voice in academic matters. So NEPs focus on governance and education. There are two aspects of the governance of any institutions: external regulation, internal governance, and NEP addresses both of them. So let us consider the provisions relating to the external regulation and self-governance, and then move to the implications and nonsense of the proposed provisions. So with reference to the external regulation, the significant change of NEP 2020 is to create a single regulator for higher education. We have several regulators in higher education now, like UGC, ICT, NCT, etc. But later it will be under one umbrella. So NEP attempts to improve the governance by bringing a single regulator, that is Higher Education Commission of India, to regulate all institutions excluding medical and law colleges. So the stated objective for a single is to avoid inter-organizational conflicts inherent in a multiplicity of organizations. Like, of course, now we have the higher education institutions, the universities, the state governments, etc., etc. So that they want to avoid. NEP observes that a multiplicity of regulatory bodies creates conflicts of interest among these bodies, resulting in lack of accountability. So in the new regime, the distinct functions of regulation, accreditation, funding, academic study will be performed by distinct, independent and empowered bodies, but under a common umbrella, that is NHERC, GEC, etc. That is 4 verticals. And this is considered as essential to create the checks and balances in the system, minimize conflicts of interest, and eliminate concentration of power. This word is used because at present the universities are deemed as the power concentration of power are the center to avoid. Thus, this lecture eliminates the duplication and disjunction of regulatory efforts by the multiple regulatory agencies that exist at the current time. This I have already told you. Therefore, NEP 2020 is moving towards simplification and rationalization. In fact, this is the fundamental principle stated over light but tight regulatory framework. So the document speaks of transforming and overhauling the regulation. So transforming, that is towards one regulation, and overhauling is checking at all stages, criticizing the previous regime as being heavy-handed and over-regulated. So from heavy-handed, it's going to be light, and instead of over-regulation, it is one body which will take care of. For example, I'll tell you now, we, the teacher education field people, had 2 regulating bodies, that is NCT and UGC. So we had to follow the UGC regulations as well as NCT regulations, but they say here afterwards we'll have only one body. So it requires a relook and repealing. So we'll have to repeal the existing acts and restructuring the various existing regulatory bodies to enable this single point regulation. I don't know what will happen in our state, Kerala, etc. Not agreed to adopt NEP 2020. So its purpose is to ensure integrity, transparency, and resource efficiency of the educational system through audit and public disclosures, which encourage innovation and out-of-box ideas through autonomy, good governance, and empowerment. Of course, the people who are advocating SCP are talking the other way around, but this is the spirit of NEP 2020. So, certain implications of NEP which are not explicitly stated, but they are equally significant. So that is, empowerment is given to higher education institutions. So because only Higher Education Council of India will regulate. With reference to Higher Education Council of India, that 4 instructional structures that I told you, those 4 verticals, will carry out 4 essential functions, and they work independently, at the same time synergistically towards common goals, and these 4 structures will be under one umbrella, that is Higher Education Commission of India. So government will phase out affiliation of colleges in 15 years and in stage-wise mechanism. That is, through these 15 years, all higher education institutions will become completely autonomous. Like we have PS College Mandya, NDRK College Hassan. So in next 15 years, they will become independent universities by themselves. They need not come to University of Mysore or University of Hassan or University of Mandya to get permission for changing the regulation, for changing the syllabus, etc. So over a period of time, every college is expected to develop into either an autonomous degree granting college or a constituent college of a university. Another aspect of autonomy is stress on self-governance, that is, through a suitable system of and graded autonomy, and in a phased manner over a period of 15 years, all the higher education institutions of India will aim to become independent self-governing institution. So the board of governors only will govern their institutions without any external interference. There will be an overarching legislation that will supersede any contravening provisions of other earlier legislations and would provide for constitution appointment modalities. New members of the board shall be identified by expert committee appointed by the board. It is envisaged that all higher education institutions, we have already learnt, will be supported and also mentored. So side by side with autonomy, responsibility and accountability are also emphasized. Thus, the board of governors shall be responsible and accountable to the stakeholders through transparent self-disclosure of all relevant records. It will be responsible for meeting the regulatory guidelines mandated by Higher Education Council of India through National Higher Education Regulatory Council, while being provided with adequate funding, legislative enablement and autonomy in a phased manner. All higher education institutions in turn will display commitment to institutional excellence. So another implication is a single regulator, and public and private higher education institutions will be governed by the same set of norms for regulation, accreditation, and academic standards. Because now the university departments, university colleges need not have to go anywhere because they were the parts of the university, whereas private colleges required getting accreditation, etc. But now it's not there. I mean, according to NEP 2020, this will also ensure that state-backed university system will compete on equal terms with private and foreign universities. So according to NEP 2020, financially also good governance will be there. So because everything will be made transparent. Okay, so this information will have to be made available and kept updated and accurate by higher education institutions. So for that we have NHERC. Any complaints and grievances of the stakeholders and other arising out of the information placed on public domain shall be adjudicated by NHERC. So now let's look at how NEP addresses the aspects of innovation and entrepreneurship. So now the students have to compete globally. In India also, we have a number of examples where indigenous technology was developed by youth and even who are outside the formal schooling network. So the system has to adopt all this. However, parents in our country can also be, then I think we will stop thinking of our children becoming only doctors or engineers, because through NEP 2020, we will be preparing good scientists, good share market experts, etc. So university education will have multiple entry and exit option. which would faster exploration and risk taking. It will make students free from these rigid academic rules. So I was telling you, if the student drops out at the first year, he will have a certificate. If he drops out at the second year, he will have a diploma. If he drops out in the third year, he will have a degree. Okay. So these multidisciplinary courses would open new horizons for innovation, because a chemistry student needs the knowledge of mathematics, and that is being taken care of with major, minor, etc. in the degree program. So think of graduation with physics. So now there's wide variety of combinations like physics, a student with physics and music, mathematics, astrology, so or a physics with English, etc. And there will be a focus on the equality and the social awareness also. So, and I think that will discourage this rat race towards conventional streams of engineering and medicine, because everybody wanted to become an engineer. But now we can have good doctors with only with the knowledge of engineering, because they will be using all mechanical gadgets. So we have biomedicine, we have biotechnology, etc. And all those will have a boost in NEP 2020. Then Skill Up India program arose because there was a gap between the skills which are required in the industry and what we are teaching in the universities. So though a gold medalist, even a gold medalist in physics would have been a misfit in the industry. So that is being taken care of. Students are now they were, what they're saying is, before NEP 2020, we have only theoretical knowledge of stereotypical subjects, and now they are made productive by applying skill-based education with multidisciplinary knowledge. So NEP will transform the persona of generations to come. Now they will be armed with relevant skills. It will encourage the students to become passionate self-learners due to flexibility of choices they will have. Now, it would prepare them for newer self-reliant tomorrow. This will set to make foundations for the next century. So there will be a change in the era. That's what the people are saying. Now we will have better impetus for innovation and entrepreneurship. So the biggest accelerator would be reducing the gap between the research and education. And the National Research Foundation brings a ray of hope. It will catapult research grants from government as well as directly from industry by establishing strong academia-industry relationship. However, the research ecosystem in India go hand in hand with entrepreneurship to be sustainable, since India cannot afford to inject millions of rupees in research. So this is already being done. Like the Tatas are funding, and all the CSR wings of the different industry. Wipro is funding. I know Wipro is funding. Then Infosys funding for research in education. Similarly, there are many industries which are funding for the research in science and technology field also. So pedagogy needs to be more customized and ensure participation of all learners. The training methodology should help in engaging the students innovatively so that they will not lose interest, and it will involve the active participants, and building on foundational skills and emphasizing this is very, very important, and the use of mother tongue. And already UGC has started working in that direction. They are asking the teachers to come forward to write the higher education books in the regional languages. They had asked us to give our expression of interest, and many of us have already got registered. So NEP also emphasizes on digital media, because we can educate masses with less difficulty. So different sort of exercises may be developed to help students to learn from the communities around and develop personal and collective social responsibility. We have so many distinguished personalities in our society. So the students should get the benefit. They should interact with them, and there will be provisions made for all this. All the three players, that is the parents, teachers, and the community, must get rid of these rules, which come in the way of their progress. It also calls for a change in the overall approach where outcomes of the education are valued and not merely made in the rule book. So the new education policy definitely gives a huge scope and window of opportunities for all of us to move beyond the mark sheets and work towards the holistic development of students. Reforms, if packaged and delivered in a participatory manner, then it will have a great positive impact. The moment to reform or change is presented as comfort value rather than as an intrusion. So what are the challenges and consequences of future learning? How do we meet them? So now, of course, here an instance is given. Like even a student in a rural village, a remote village, can also have a smartphone provided by a government or an NGO and get the guidance from the mentors who are in the city. This is the true power and potential of online learning platforms. I think already during COVID, we had some exposure to it. And now, of course, the UGC is encouraging online learning through MOOC, etc. So there, this can happen only if the network is established in the remote areas and the phones are provided to the students. And I think our big giants like Infosys, Wipro, companies like Infosys, Wipro, etc., are helping the government and the academicians in this task. So now the information is available at the fingertips through the internet, and the opportunities for formal learning are available online through platforms like Khan Academy, MOOCs, podcasts, etc. So opportunities for communication and collaboration is there according to NEP 2020. And we should have a collaborative and a coordinated learning. So today the technology enables different forms of communication and collaboration than which was undreamt of. The walls of classrooms are no longer barriers as technology enables new ways of learning, communicating, working collaboratively. New technologies are thus helpful. We have already learnt about it. Then the democratization of education raises important issues of equity, but we are taking care of equity also. The digital divide also extends beyond the school. More economically advantaged children, you have the access, but I think that would be taken care of by the involvement of the industries in educating the rural and the remote youth. So we have to now remember that there is a possibility and policy and practice can adapt to facilitate the organic changes that take place in the education arena, closing the gap, or we have to reduce, or we have to make up for the gap between the urban and the rural, the haves and the have-nots, and the new education policy is working in that direction. So in conclusion, we may say that NEP is ambitious in transforming the ideals and prioritization of excellence and merit. With legislative and financial backing, the new education policy will have a new and a vibrant India poised to take its rightful place in the world's at the global level. For sure, NEP puts us abreast with model education system of the world. However, we have to work with rightful implementation of NEP 2020. So this is overall. So I just sum up. We have, according to NEP 2020, friends, we will have Higher Education Council of India. It will have 4 verticals, and one will be for the regulation, other will be for maintaining the standards, and other will be for setting up the learning outcomes or the graduate attributes. Another will be for funding, and in next 15 years, over the period of 15 years, all the higher education institutions can become or will become independent degree awarding universities, and we want to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots, the urban and the poor, by involving the industries. And we will avoid the conflict of interest with a single regulatory body, that is Higher Education Council of India. So more freedom is given to the higher education institutions and the autonomy is given, but the power of the universities is crunched a little, and the universities will have to focus on their own administration, because the highlight and the emphasis of NEP 2020 is on self-governance through Board of Governors, and they will only make appointment through the experts committee. But to establish Board of Governors, we need to acquire the accreditation. So only after getting that required accreditation, the college can have its own BOG, which will govern. So the involvement or the regulation of the university would be reduced a little. I think I have conveyed you how the government should be. So now you can ask any queries, or if you want to add, you are welcome. Friends, I'm clear? Now you have a structure in front.
Hello.
Yes, please tell me. May I know who is speaking?
Suhasini, ma'am. Suhasini Bhujbal.
Suhasini from?
Pune.
Yes, Pune. Sorry, Suhasini, tell me, what did you want to say?
Yeah. Just you told us merits of NEP, but
Mer-
a little bit while you told me that Kerala is not going to accept the NEP 2020. So what are the reasons behind that?
Madam, actually, not only Kerala, even in Karnataka, the government is not ready to adopt NEP 2020. We are saying that we will come out with state educational policy, that is SEP 2020. And Kerala is also not agreeing to adopt it. Of course, they are saying, like, what are the merits I spoke about NEP 2020? Now they are saying this is not good, because the power center would be the government. And of course, the actual reason I don't want to say, but still, it is the ideological differences between the parties, that's all. But they are not saying it, but they are saying, no, this is not good, because they say, like, we are not ready for the candidates who drop at first year, second year. So the country is not yet ready for this multiple entry and exit. That's what they're saying. Recently, I had been to Kerala, to 2 to 3 universities. I had been to University of Kerala, Central University of Kerala. So they are saying that we have an ideological difference. So we are not ready. And actually in Karnataka, they have taken such a step that we were all there in framing the syllabus according to NEP 2020 for the first year and second year of UG programs. They changed the whole committee thinking that we are followers of that government. No, whoever is senior was given the responsibility. But now the state government has changed the whole committee itself because they want to revert to SCP. But I don't know how they are going to do it because the students have already learned 2 years as per NEP 2020. So now the state government is telling then the next year will be as per SCP. That is state educational policy. What about Maharashtra? You are saying you
I
are
think they are
from Pune.
going to adopt. Yeah, I think they
You
are
are-
going to adopt it.
That is all Shiv Sena NDA
Yes.
alliance. Yes, friend.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? I don't know how many of you are for NEP 2020. How many of you are for NEP 2020? Can I have a voice vote? Can I have a voice vote? All of you are for NEP 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Nobody is against SCP? Sorry, NEP 2020.
I am, ma'am. So happy.
You are so happy. But many participants are from Karnataka. I saw Anantram's name. Anantram sir. Hello. I saw many of my Karnataka friends' name. You say NEP 2020, but the government is not ready to implement NEP 2020. What is your response now? Hello? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Karnataka friends are there, no?
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Now government is
Yes,
not for
madam.
NEP 2020. Are you?
NEP 2020 is good, ma'am.
Then how are you voicing it out? Government is not ready.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅದೊಂದು ಗವರ್ನಮೆಂಟ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಯಾವ ಗವರ್ನಮೆಂಟ್ ಯಾವ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಕರೆದ ಅದು ಒಪ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ನಾವು.
ಒಪ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳೋದು ನಮ್ ಊಟಾಕು ಫುಟ್ಟಾಕು ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ?
ಅಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್,
ಈಗ
ಈಗ ಒಪ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಒಪ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ NEP 1-2 ವರ್ಷ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಈಗ SCP ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹೇಗಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ?
ಅದನ್ನೇ ಈಗ ನಾನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. 2 ವರ್ಷ NEP ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಈಗ ಓದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಹೌದು ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಮತ್ತೆ ಈಗ SCP ಹೆಂಗಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಮೇಡಮ್?
ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ
SCP ನ
ಅಂತ.
ಆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್?
ಆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಆಗತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂತ.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ನಿನ್ನೆಯಿಂದ ಹಲೋ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹಲೋ
ಹೇಳಿ.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ನಿನ್ನೆಯಿಂದ USMS ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮೇಡಮ್, NEP ಬೇಕಾ ಬೇಡವಾ ಅಂತ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಮಕ್ಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಮೇಡಮ್, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ NEP ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗಿದೆಯಾ ಅಥವಾ SCP ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ. SCP ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ವಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಮೇಡಮ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳು.
ಸರ್ ಸಾರಿ, ನೀವು ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ. UUCMS ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಿರೋದು ಆನರ್ಸ್ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಬೇಕಾ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ, NEP ಅಥವಾ SCP ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲ.
ಹೌದು ಮೇಡಮ್, ಮಿಸ್ಗೈಡ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಮೇಡಮ್
ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು NEP ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ತಯಾರಿ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಇನ್ನೂ ತಯಾರಿ ಆಗಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ, ಬೇಗ ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅದರಿಂದ.
ಬಟ್ ನಾನ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಈಗ 2 ವರ್ಷ NEP ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ?
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹೈಯರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಅವರು ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿಲ್ವಾ ಮೇಡಮ್?
ಅವ್ರು ಇವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದೇ
ಹೌದು
ಶರತ್ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಸರ್ ಚೇರ್ಮನ್ಶಿಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ
ಹೌದು
ಅಲ್ಲಿ
ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಿರೋದೇನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ಒಪ್ಕೋತೀನಿ, ನಾವು ರೆಡಿ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದೇನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಹೈಯರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೇನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ದೇರ್, ದ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ವರ್ ಸೇಯಿಂಗ್ in the UG program they are not able to teach one subject completely. ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಯಾವ್ದಕ್ಕೂ ಮಾಸ್ಟರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಅದನ್ನ ಒಪ್ಕೋತೀನಿ. ಬಟ್ ನಾನು ಇವಾಗ ಏನು, ಅವ್ರು 4th year ಹೋಗಿ ಆನರ್ಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಓದಿ ಅವ್ರ PG ಅವ್ರು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ, ಅಥವಾ ಹಳೆ ತರ 3 years ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ? ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿ. ನನಗೇನ್ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಈ 2 ವರ್ಷ ಓದ್ರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕೊಡೋಣ. ಇವಾಗ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಹುಡುಗರು 2 ವರ್ಷ ಓದ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ.
ತುಂಬಾ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ
Syllabus
ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್ ಹೇಳಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಯಾರ್ದೋ ಒಬ್ರದ್ದು ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬೆನ್ಸ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಇದೆ.
ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗ್ ನೀವ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಇವಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸೌಂಡ್.
ಸರಿ ಸರಿ. 2 ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಈಗ
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಹಲೋ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಸಾರಿ, ಆಮ್ ಐ ಆಡಿಬಲ್ ನೌ?
ಎಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
Yes, ma'am.
ನಾನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದು, ಫಾರ್ ದೋಸ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟೆಡ್ 2 years in NEP, ಮೇ ಬಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ 3rd year ಆಲ್ಸೋ ವಿತ್ NEP. ಇವಾಗ ಅಡ್ಮಿಟ್ ಆಗೋರ್ಗೆ ನಾವು SCP ಕೊಡಬಹುದು. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇವರು 2 years NEP 2020 ಪ್ರಕಾರ, 3rd year SCP ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, how can we issue them marks cards? How will they continue their further education? ಇವ್ರೇನ ಆನರ್ಸಾ, ಅಥವಾ ಇವ್ರಿಗೇನಾದ್ರು 4th year ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಾವು NEP 2020 ಪ್ರಕಾರ PhD ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕಾ, ಅಥವಾ 3+2 ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕಾ, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು? ನನಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ
ಈಗ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ, ನೀವು ಅವ್ರನ್ನ
NEP
ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸ್
2020
ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು.
NEP 2020 ಬೆಟರ್ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಅದನ್ನ
Madam.
ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಸರ್ಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅವರಿಗೆ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು. ನೋಡಿ, ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ನಮಗೆ NEP ಎಷ್ಟು ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ಸ್ ನ ನೀವು ನಮಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಅಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ನಾವು NEP ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾ, SCP ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾ? SCP ಯಾಕೆ ಬೇಕು ಮೇಡಮ್? ಈಗ ಒಳ್ಳೊಳ್ಳೆ
Madam.
ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು
ಮೇಡಮ್, ಇವಾಗ 2 ಬ್ಯಾಚ್ ಇಂದಷ್ಟೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, ಇವಾಗ
ಹೌದು.
ನೋಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅಡ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಆದಾಗ ಏನ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅದನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ನಾವು
ಹೌದು.
ಅವಾಗ
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ
ಏನಿತ್ತು
ಯಾರಾದ್ರು-
ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಅಡ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದನ್ನಾಗಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ದಾಗ ಏನಿರ್ತದೆ ಅದನ್ನೇ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಮುಂದುವರಿಬೇಕೆ ಹೊರತು ಅವ್ರನ್ನ SCP ಗೆ ತರಬಾರ್ದು ನಾವು. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ
ಅಲ್ಲ,
ಒಂದು
ಎಷ್ಟು
ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್
blind-
ಬಂದಾಗ, ನಾವು ಒಂದು ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಆ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ನ ಹುಡುಗ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಮುಗುವವರೆಗೂ ಸಹಿತ ಆ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಲೇಬೇಕು ನಾವು.
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಹಿಂದೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, ನಾವೇನ್ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ? whoever was the senior most was given the responsibility of framing the syllabus. next seniors member ಆಗಿದ್ವಿ. ಈಗ ನಮ್ ಕೇಸಲ್ಲೇ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನೀವು, our madam Hasintaj madam was the chairman. After her retirement, since I happened to be the senior most in our field, I was given the chairmanship. But they have changed the whole committee. See, we are not bound by any party. We are independent academicians, but they have changed the whole committee itself. So, this way of interference, I think, is not right. somebody was telling that you people will have to say. Where can we say? We have been removed from the committee. So all those who have been again appointed as members of the committee now should take the lead and try to solve the problem, because from June, this batch will have the problem. Even the teachers will have the problem. We in the PG departments are safe because we have not started with NEP 2020, but higher education, all who are having undergraduate programs will have difficulty. And I think the board of examiners, BOE, will have the tough time, because we'll have to frame multiple question papers. One for NEP 2020, another for SCP 2020. So imagine our situation of framing so many, then issuing question papers, then again valuing according to the scheme. So the HODs, the principals will have tough time. And even the teachers will have tough time. I think undergraduate program teachers will have tough time if you are encountered with SCP, NEP problem. Thank God we are safe because we have not yet started NEP 2020. We are still having the old one because we would be starting after 2 years. So before 2 years, the change has taken place and we do not know what happens. And people are saying, if NDA government comes at the center, by an ordinance, they will make the state governments follow NEP 2020. If that happens, it's okay. Imagine if the other parties come into power, again there will be change. So the rulers, the politicians will not have any problem. We, the teachers and the students and the parents will suffer. But these are the merits of NEP 2020. That much I can say. So this is how the government has chalked out. I think the private institutions are happy because the power of universities is crunched. But I feel there should have been little control by the university, because at least university is better in controlling the private institutions rather than the government controlling the institutions. Because in university, the teachers who are the academicians will be responsible for maintaining the standards of the private institutions. But if it goes to the hands of the state government or the central government, it will be the officers and not the academicians will be ruling the institutions. So I feel only in this respect, NEP 2020 should change. That is my personal opinion, friends. I don't know, what is your experience of being college teachers? State government and the central government to monitor.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಇವಾಗ ಅಟಾನಮಸ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗಳ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ
ಇಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು
ಮತ್ತೆ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪವರ್ ಕೊಡೋದು ಯಾಕೆ ಮೇಡಮ್?
ನಾನ್ ಹೇಳೋದೇನ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ, ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಆಫೀಸರ್ಸ್, ಅವ್ರ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿನಲ್ಲ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಇದಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಈ ಪಾಠ ಇರ್ಬೇಕು, ಈ ಪಾಠ ಇರ್ಬೇಕು, ಹಿಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ನಡಿಬೇಕು ನಾವ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೇನ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಆಫೀಸರ್ಸ್ಗೆ? ಅವನ KS ಬಂದ್ ಕೂತ್ಕೋತಾನೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ?
ಹೌದೌದು ಮೇಡಮ್, ಹೌದು.
ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆ ಡಾಮಿನೆನ್ಸ್, ಪವರು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ನಂಗೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋಷ್ಟು ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ದೇ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾನಿಟರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅವರು ಆಫೀಸರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾನಿಟರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಮಾನಿಟರ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬೆಟರ್ ಅಂತ ನಂಗೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗಿನ್ನೂ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು I still remember some of my colleagues who are there in degree colleges. HRMS ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅಂತ ಖುಷಿ ಪಟ್ರು. ಏನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನ ಏನೂ ತೊಂದ್ರೆ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ ಸ್ಯಾಲ್ರಿಗೆ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ HRMS ಫೀಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಲಂಚ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ತಾನೇ ಈಗ. ಸೊ ಲಂಚದ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಬಟ್ ಲಂಚ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗಳು ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ತರದ್ ಇಂಟರ್ಫಿಯರೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಪ್ಪ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್, ಅಫಿಲಿಯೇಷನ್ ವಿಸಿಟ್ ಬರೋರು ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್, ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಷನ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಬರೋರು ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್. ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ದು ಸಿಂಡಿಕೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ AC ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ. ನನ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ AC ಗೆ ಬರೋರ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಾಲಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಅಂತ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಸಾರಿ ಟು ಸೇ, ನಾನ್ ಡೀನ್ ಆದಾಗ ಒಬ್ರು ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಇದ್ರು, ನಾನು ಹೇಳಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಅವರು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಔಟ್ ಅಂತೆ. ಸ್ಕೂಲಿಂದ ಅದು ಹೊರಪಟ್ಟವರು AC ಮೆಂಬರ್. ವಾಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಎ ಪರ್ಸನ್ who was pushed from a school for doing wrong things, ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಆ ತರ AC ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಷಿಯನ್ಸ್ ನೇ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಅವರೇ ಮಾನಿಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ವುಡ್ ಬಿ ಬೆಟರ್ ರಾದರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ ಐದರ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆರ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ monitoring and ruling the higher education institutions. That's what I feel. But let us pray for the best. Okay? Anybody else wants to add anything?